Welcome to Corley's Corner, episode 4. Today we're going to talk about our IFMA athletes and the upcoming World Games.
Gold medalist goes to
فضية المنتدب لكازاخستان وهنا على الحلبة بشكل رسمي.
History was made just a few hours ago with Aaron Ortiz becoming the very first male athlete for USA Muaythai to win gold in the elite division. We got Tierra Brandt, another gold medalist. I think this is her third gold. And we have Angela Bahr, who won a silver medal against a super tough opponent. So we're going to just dive into IFMA. And Jeff, tell us a little bit about these fights you were watching all week.
I would wake up early in the morning. The first thing I did was just recap all of the fights. And it was really cool to see how people advanced. And also it was nice to see people without a lot of international experience finally get that experience and them test themselves against the world's best, specifically like Jabril and Joseph Mueller and David Fisher. It was really cool to see them just put it all out there. I'm really happy that Joseph Mueller wasn't hurt too bad. You know, he was out the same day, had a CT scan, everything was good. So I'm glad that Joseph Mueller's cool and, he didn't take too much damage. I think one of the people that impressed me a lot was Angela Bahr, right? Because, her career in the States has been kind of like up and down. She's taken breaks. She's also won a lot and she's lost a few. She really came out to the World Championships with the mind state of winning, and she really did really well, especially against Poland. She fought a larger girl who had a lot of experience, who also was like a multiple medalist, and she really dogged it out with her and won decisively, which was really cool. Her last fight with Miriam, who's a multiple time medalist from Morocco, I believe, correct?
Yes.
Man, I mean, it was also such a cool fight to see because Miriam came out swinging for the fences and really dominating the first round, utilizing her legs really well and knees, which I really appreciated, right? As looking at fighters and their styles, she used her legs a lot, but it also burnt her out toward the second round. And that's when you could see Angela trying to capitalize on that in those later rounds. You could see the change of pace and Miriam moving back on the back foot and not really attacking because of the output she put in the first round, which was really, really amazing. And then, Tierra, I just had this feeling that she was going to go all the way and just win it all. You know what I mean? She's done it before. She also just outclassed all of her opponents. I believe, talking to Michael Corley, she didn't lose one round the entire tournament. So much kudos to her and her gym. Also kudos to, Angela's gym and all the trainers there. And, Aaron Ortiz, he's grown so much in the past year.
He's killing it.
He's really developed into a really world-class fighter and proved that he's the number one in the world today. He had some tough fights. I mean, none of those fights were easy, especially at this level. None of the fights are easy. And I hope the audience that followed along and watched the fighters' journeys understood that this was hard. But Aaron, he did such a great job. He's just amazing to watch and nice person, great attitude. And it's nice to finally have a gold medalist at the elite males class,
Yeah, I agree with you on a lot of stuff. I want to touch back on Angela. I've saw Angela fight quite a bit in the States, and she's one of those that I would say is always game to fight. I think every chance she could get to fight or anywhere that she could go, I always saw her chase after that. And I think especially as we discuss so much in the US, what needs to happen for the sport to grow, or how do we progress our athletes, right? Obviously getting those rounds in is super important. And I think in preparation for the World Games, we're going to see a lot of these athletes again, like Ashley and Angela, Tierra, Joseph. We're going to see these people again at the World Games. So I think it's cool that they put themselves out there, went to IFMA, went and did it, went to Abu Dhabi, go, as you know, Jeff, getting on the plane to go somewhere a little far away and then fighting and being away from home and your family and your support system is not the easiest thing to do. And especially if you're fighting, I think we had a limited staff this time. It was just Aziz, Rami, Marcy. I believe Coach Ryan Murray was with them. So I think it was really cool that everybody worked together to really support each other. Normally, I think the US goes with like a big team, 12 people, a bunch of coaches. So I'm really pleased that they did so well. And it seemed like everybody was so supportive from what I could see from over here.
And it kind of proves that we don't need a lot of people to go with the team sometimes, especially depending on the size of the tournament. But I forgot to touch base on Ashley Thiner and how well she did in the first 2 legs of the tournament. She is also one of our top fighters in America. And unfortunately, she just didn't have a really good turnout in regards to her performance. But that doesn't say that she didn't fight really well. And I'm excited to see Ashley Thiner perform at the World Games as well. I think that's going to really drive light a fire under a bunch of the people, especially the medalists that weren't able to compete recently, because there's other people on the team that have competed, like Yanette recently competed, and so did Luke Lisi. Aaron also competed, and this was her first time really traveling outside and fighting at a high caliber like that. So, it was a great learning experience for a lot of them. So I'm hoping that a fire is lit under the team, because a lot of the people that they faced will also be at the World Games, right? Because they've been invited. For example, like the girl from Poland, she has already made it to the World Games. And then Ashley Thiner, who fought, I think it was Czechoslovakia. Her name is Victoria. She's also a multiple medalist, and Ashley Thiner beat her in that leg of the tournament. And she's also going to be at the World Games. So our athletes are going to see a lot of familiar faces,
And they're fighting tough people. This is something we've talked about before. I think I talked about it with Gunter, that our fighters, you would say Tierra, I think Tierra has quite a bit of fights under her belt. She's more experienced than a lot of other people, right? Tierra is still going to be facing people who has 3 or 4 times her experience, same a lot of with these guys in the higher weight classes. They're facing people with 200, 300 fights. What are your thoughts on this? How do you think things are going to go?
Our men and women have a good chance at earning medals. A lot of the people, like I said, they've seen before at this past tournament. The only difference is Tierra will be in an elite class, because there aren't any under 23 classes for men or for men and women. You know what I mean? Sure. Because the under 23 division for IFMA is a developing division to make sure that young people have a chance to compete and have like an ascension model into the elite class. Because the World Games is just an open division, it's only elite. Tierra is going to be facing a lot of women in her bracket versus, younger people of 23 and under, which is okay, because it proves that, she won gold. She beat everyone in her division. So she deserves to be in the elite class going forward. It's going to be different for people that haven't fought on the world, like in a world or international tournament. I think like Yanette will probably have a different experience. But again, Yanette, when I saw Yanette perform, she just looks unbeatable at this moment.
Everybody took her lunch money and she wants it back. That's how she fights.
Like I was joking with her. I after her fight, I was like, "What fuels you?" She's like, "I'm fueled by trauma and rage." I'm like, "Yeah, like." She fought a seasoned veteran that had a layoff, but I mean, they went at it for 5 rounds, and Yanette would just look so impressive. And I'm proud that she's representing our country. But again, I mean, it's not like Yanette hasn't fought any tough people. It's just Yanette hasn't really fought in a tournament style at this capacity where it's every day and different levels of athletes, But again, she's the number 1 in the United States, and I have all faith that she's going to earn medals for us. All of our athletes, I have faith that they're going to fight their best and earn medals for us.
Well, I do want to talk about that as well. When I look at the roster, I think the only repeating athletes that we've had represent the US before, I'd say, is Austin Amell. We've got Luke Lacey, Matt Baker went to IFMA before. Aaron and Tierra both have competed, but a little more recently, and Tierra was one of our youth athletes. A lot of this is fresh faces. We haven't gotten to really chat about the qualifiers. When you and I talked in person, you're like, well, it's kind of a passing of the guard. We've seen that quite a bit in the last 2 years, especially you who have seen people, this transition of the sport. Like, what are your thoughts on this?
In regards to the transition of the sport, it's like, well, first, the qualifiers was a monumental thing, and it was an eye opener that some people that you think that were the favorites ended up losing. And that doesn't take away from them being a professional or not, or a good fighter. It just wasn't their day. It wasn't their week. We had professionals in there that are main events that lost in the first round. And that was shocking because a lot of people thought we had favoritism in regards to our tournament. People don't understand that the draw is random, that the USMF doesn't handpick these draws. These draws come from an automated system. So whoever you got, you know what I mean? And it was interesting to see how the tournament unfolded. And you cannot take away what happened at that tournament to all these people that represent us now on the world stage. And, now you have young people like Luke Lacey, who's been in this game since he was a kid. Tierra, who's been in it since a kid, especially in the IFMA, USMF, like system of things. She pretty much grew up in this sport. And
yeah, sure.
It's that path that we need for all kinds of youth athletes. We need the opportunities that Tierra had for all of our athletes from a young age, because it shows like we can earn gold medals on the world stage if they're educated in the system and we're giving them the experience. New people like Jabril was for the IFMA World Champions. Travis, he's fought online fight. He's fought some tough dudes. He's fought Max. He's fought a lot of great athletes also at the world qualifiers, World Games qualifiers. I'm really interested to see how he does because I like his style a lot. He's in a really competitive weight class. And I think, he doesn't have a lot of information about him right now, but he has proven that he's one of the best. And I'd had to do some searching myself to figure out what his fights were. And he seems like a tough dude, and he's a good height for it, good body for it. And I think he can, and his IQ is really, really good. So it'd be interesting to see how well he does against the world's best in Alabama. I'm excited to see him fight as well. I'm excited to see everyone fight, to be honest.
You mentioned Tierra growing up in the system kind of since she was young, preparing for fights. I know they call Des Mama Des, but she can't adopt everybody, unfortunately. So
right.
What would you recommend to the coaches that are listening? How can we build more champions kind of following Tierra's path?
Well, I think they need to compete in the USMF events and really focus on how to get recognized by the USMF. And to be recognized, you have to fight, right? You have to have a winning record. You have to have a certain amount of fights. Before the World Games qualifiers happened, I would say there were a couple of routes, right? Try to be the best in your local area. Then you do other local tournaments, regional tournaments. Then you would do the national tournaments, something like the TBAs, right?
Yeah.
You win all those, you have to be recognized by the United States as being one of the best in the US. And that will help you get recognized by the USMF because we are the elite class of amateurs, pro amateurs, open class, right? We have defined that we are the only ones that can really throw a pro-am tournament where pros and amateurs are allowed to compete. And it's an invite only, right? To be invited, you have to meet a criteria. So all the coaches and athletes wanting to know how to compete for the USMF, you really have to one, get educated as well in the sport, right? Coaches should take the educational courses. Then you get to meet a lot of the people in the USMF. Questions can be answered there to direct you to the right things. We're going to start a youth academy, which will help kind of also bring youth athletes into qualifiers, get invited to the qualifiers, regional qualifiers. So the USMF has a really great trajectory going forward. We're going to have regional tournaments, national tournaments, qualifiers. And this is something people should really be interested in, because we are the only pathway to the Olympics and the Olympic sport. No other federations, no other sanctioning bodies can really say that at this moment.
I do want to touch a little bit more on the qualifiers, just because for you and I being there and so many things happening, Instagram going down in 2 hours and all these crazy fights, so many things just occurring, like, wow, what a jam-packed 4 days. I do want to say, to your point about people thinking there's like favorites, and for me, I was assuming the more veteran athletes or athletes who have competed before for USMF would be, oh, this is their time, this is their shoe-in, right? And we didn't see that happen. We saw some up-and-comers kind of take over, I would say, right? One thing I would like you to kind of talk about is a lot of people were saying, well, it's the elevation. It was because the elevation that I didn't perform well, or it was because of this that I didn't perform well. At IFMA, and IFMA is my experience. This is going to be my first World Games. That shit is unpredictable. Like, you're in Thailand, it's super hot, and that's kind of what it is, right? Or you're in Turkey and it's you're in a stadium and it's super cold, and that's what it is. So what are your thoughts to people who are saying like, well, it was because of this and it was because of that? Like, what do you think of this?
Well, not everybody competed was from Denver. So
Sure.
Everyone had to experience that. It wasn't just certain people that lost. It was also the winners. You know what I mean? So, and if you really wanted to do well, I think you would have prepared for it. And that's just the bottom line. If you were worried about the elevation, you would have been prepared for it. I mean, there were questions that were raised like, well, what about the athletes that aren't coming from Denver? Denver's going to have a leg up. Well, when you fight professionally, they don't care, right?
Like, I'm not fighting in Mexico.
Yeah. Like, we went, one of my first tournaments I went to was in Mexico City, and the fucking elevation was gnarly, for real. Like, going up the stairs, your lungs are burning, right? But we still won medals. You know what I mean? I don't know. I don't want to say that's an excuse, but there's other people that won that also aren't from Denver that had the same elevation issues, you know?
And what did you see as someone who has been in the sport for quite some time? And again, we're talking about passing of the guard. I think we talked about it before with Kevin Ross's fight with Asa Tenpao. That was a passing of the guard for sure. Seeing the change in the sport, even the change of styles. Did you feel like there was a clash of styles at all at the qualifiers? Was there anything like that stood out to you?
Well, there were some people that had really amazing styles that just couldn't move forward because of physical things like being injured, an injury resurfacing, you know, Sean Clamaco tearing his ACL or
no fighting though. Fought until he couldn't. That was insane. I'll never forget that.
Yeah, and you know what I mean? It was just it is, I don't know if it's a passing of the guard yet, because it was just weeding out who was better than who was better that weekend, you know? Yes, there's new generations of fighters, a lot of young fighters beating our veteran fighters, and you know, there was a lot of banter going back and forth between the veterans, like, oh, I'm gonna teach these little kids what's up, you know, or, you know, I'm gonna show them how professionals do it. But there was also this fire that these young people had to really want to succeed, you know, especially like the Eddie Abasolo versus Jordan Watson fight was crazy.
Fight.
Again, you know, Jordan performed extremely well. And then Jordan's most recent fight, he didn't perform as well because the other person had a different game plan, right? And that goes to show people could have amazing days and have amazing weekends, and then the next weekend it won't be their time. So it really depends on who's the best at that moment. And at the tournament, it was those people who actually earned gold medals.
I would say out of all the fights of the weekend, Jordan's fights with Eddie and with Luis, holy crap, everybody was standing up. And it's like a really good fight when you see Mike like frozen watching what's happening,
right.
Not like no one can distract him from what's happening, and those fights were crazy, so much heart. And I think that's actually a really good representation of what people are gonna be facing or what they do face at IFMA, right? Like
right.
The for the US and for some other countries, it's not like they're getting paid thousands of dollars to bring home a gold medal. But for some other countries, you are paid a lot of money to bring something home. And I think people fight like more than just the honor. There's so much that comes with that.
Right. And I think a lot of it, though, for other countries is the ability to represent your country. That's really the number one thing, because it's really important for people in developing countries and other like first world countries as well. They really pride on representing the country and representing it well and earning those medals. Again, people that fight in our sport, this is our Olympics, and it has been for a very long time. And this World Games, it represented, Muay Thai for the first time in 2017. So, this is the highest level, and the people that won the tournaments earned their spot. And then now we're going to see how well they do against the world's best.
Well, let's also talk about the world's best, because for those who don't know, Jeffrey is doing some stuff for IFMA, kind of helping them quite a bit with, I don't know how much I'm allowed to say, so I will let you say more.
Well, I was elected International Federation Media Manager, so I'll be pretty much the liaison between IFMA and the World Games in regards to media and content and stuff like that. What's going to happen is I wanted to create a social media plan, how we've developed for the USMF. So I brought you along as my second shooter as well, that will have access to field of play. And Dustin will be helping along with also just putting things together when we cannot access the social medias at that time. Pari did a great job putting a plan together, and Dustin did an amazing job on the graphics. I'm going to put together a presentation for IFMA, and then I'm going to show them how I wanted this to be rolled out. And it's kind of just like everything that we've done for the USMF. What my goal is to have worldwide engagement, because I want all of the federations to know that this is such a major deal, especially for the US, because we're the home country, right? And I think it's going to be a really cool experience to see everything rolled out the way it will be.
Well, so that being said, that means that Jeff, Dustin, and I have seen all the athletes' names, and we have, I'm sure the fighters have looked at who's in their division or seen the really famous people, but we've seen everybody's names, where people are coming from, what their experience is like, what's their backgrounds to. There's some really big players in this tournament. For me, Iman Barlow, I'm a big fan of her, and it's going to be really cool to see her at this tournament. Jeff, can you tell our listeners, who are they going to see? What can they expect?
Oh, man, there's going to be a lot.
Just like you said, all 100 athletes. Go ahead. We have time.
Like you said, Iman Barlow is like a major one.
Haley Block is also competing.
Haley Block is major. I'll discuss a couple of the things that I see in the 48 kilos, where Yanette is going to be in. I think I think she may have a great chance of earning gold, but the Moroccans are going to be there, the Turkish are going to be there. Ukrainians, I'm hoping will be there, depending on what's happening with with all of the stuff going on in Europe. So she has a good bracket. Let me see here. In regards to Ashley Theiner's bracket, we're going to have people like Yolanda Schmidt from Australia, who is a veteran of the sport. Yumiko from Canada, who is also a veteran and IFMA fighter.
She fought Janet, right?
She fought and beat Janet. She also beat Selena Flores at the Pan Americans in 2017. We have Victoria Buyanova, who Ashley Theiner just beat recently. And then we have Bui Yen Lee from Vietnam, who just won gold in the Southeast Asian Games, and she's a beast. So she actually has a really thick bracket of strong competitors. Then at the 60 kilogram, for women's 60 kilogram, we have Charlie Manor, and there's an athlete by the name of Nina from Austria who's really amazing. We have Neely Block, who is also in there, where she's a multiple time medalist, fought people like, Valentina, who's in the UFC. And then we have Ewan Anna from Sweden, who's really awesome too.
I just want to interrupt. How come you can pronounce everyone's name so well, and then when I have to do the Americans, I screw everybody's names up?
Because I'm reading them off a page right now.
And
then in Tierra's bracket is a really highlighted bracket too, because she has Anel Angerville and Patricia Axling from Sweden, Iman Barlow, and she's going to be there with the top girls at the 57 kilogram elite, and that's going to be a really amazing bracket. I'd love to see her fight any of these girls specifically. I'd love to see her match up with Iman, test herself against Iman, Patricia Axling, or Anel. And then at the 51 kilos where Angela was at, I believe we have Monica from Slovakia, who is a multiple time medalist. We have Miriam, who she recently lost gold to. We have a strong female, Rebecca from Austria, and one of the refugee girls as well that is now in Denver is going to be competing in her bracket too. So that's going to be super cool. And then 63 kilos, which is Aaron's weight class, we have Zoe Puderak, who is a multiple gold medalist from Australia. She's going to be someone really interesting. And then Nora Cornell, I'm not going to pronounce this right. Cornell. She recently lost to her. She lost to her at in Abu Dhabi. And then we're going to have actually Liana Bade, who trains out of Smash Gyms, with Rudy Ott representing the Philippines, which is pretty cool.
Awesome.
And then we also have someone from the Thai team, Janjira Wankrui, who looks like a beast as well. So 63 is stacked. And then in the men's, where Austin Amel is at 57 kilograms, we have people like Philip Dalmino. Yeah,
bro, he's Filipino. Come on, you're the worst.
And then Vlad Maikiatas from the Ukraine, and then Tran Dutnanyan is just a freaking beast, and he fights for one. And he's a monster, and so is Almaz from Kazakhstan. They call him Snake. And then they have Saif Adin Zakzuk from Jordan. So the 57 kilogram men's is a deep bracket. And then we have the 71 kilos, which is going to be Luke Lisi. He has Jimmy Vino, who just recently fought for a championship on one, correct?
Yes.
And then Atay Gershon, who's from Israel, who was also a glory fighter. And then we have some other cats from Uzbekistan and Morocco representing. So we have some really strong countries in Luke Lisi's bracket. Would really like to see Luke Lisi versus Jimmy Vino. Also, Tananchai is on this too. So from Thailand, Tananchai, who is from Sitsong Pinang, I believe, and has also fought multiple times in Roger Domner and beaten a lot of dudes. I've seen him fight Nobert, and it was crazy. So any of those guys would be awesome to see Luke get matched up against. And then at the 67 kilos, right, we have Travis. He has Kapitan Petchandi
Oh,
in
and
it,
just
and
one fighter, no problem.
just a one fighter,
Champion.
Rajadamnern fighter, Lumpini
Yeah.
fighter. We have Norbert, who is also multiple medalist winner
From Hungary.
from Hungary. We have Demos from Greece, and that's just another stacked division. Then we look at 81 kilo men, which is Aaron Ortiz, our gold medalist. He has Peru, who Mateo from Peru, has a lot of experience. We have Miguel Angel from Mexico, who has a lot of experience. And Mustafa from Iraq, which I think I'm not too sure if he fought at this tournament, but that's going to be a really deep bracket. And I think Aaron has a really great chance of earning us gold. At the 63.5 kilos, that's Joseph Mueller's category. He has Thailand in there. He has Slovakia, Igor from Ukraine. It's nice to see that Korea is representing, Italy, and Kazakhstan as well. Then at our 91 kilos, where Mr. Matt Baker is going to be representing, they all look like killers here, big killers from Eastern European countries and the Middle East. So we have Saudi Arabia representing Uzbekistan again, Czech Republic, Iran, Ukraine, and Poland. So, I mean, all these brackets are crazy, and we all have great chances of earning gold, but it's not going to be an easy time. You know what I mean?
We have also, I want to say, especially after looking through this roster so many times, we have one of the biggest teams, right? Like no one else has as many athletes competing as we do, right?
Yeah, because we're the host country, so we can fill each weight class. That's why we had the qualifiers as well,
to give those opportunities.
Yeah, so everyone can compete at, like, if this was if it was in a different country, we would have to be invited. So the people that would have been probably Aaron Ortiz, Tierra Brandt, and Angela Bahr, because they medaled at an international tournament. You know what I mean?
And that's how other countries selected their athletes. Not everybody got to do qualifiers, right? We're
correct.
Not everybody, not to bring up some internet drama, but I did see that not everyone is as lucky to get the opportunity to have a national qualifier.
Right. The only other places that do it are like is Europe, right? They have the European Championships.
Yeah.
Right. And then now South American Championships, and then the Pan American Championships. So if you medal in any of those, Southeast Asian Games, so if you medal in any of those, you probably will be invited to fight at the World Games. You know what I mean? So the more medals that you earn fighting these international tournaments, the higher points you get for the World Games.
Let's talk a little bit about why we have talked about why the World Games is important and all that stuff. But for people who see this as just another tournament, just another championship, just another thing for your resume, how is this going to change someone's career? Like the athletes we had in 2017, Troy Jones and Janet Todd, who both went on to have incredible careers in fighting. What could this do for our athletes?
Well, let's take a look at the qualifiers first, right? We have determined who are the top 3, top 4 athletes. Now look at what's happening to the promotions in the United States and who they're booking for their fights.
True.
You know what I mean? When you prove that you're number 1, number 2, number 3, number 4, you're more than likely going to get matched up to fight because you're the best in the United States and you're already driving your brand, your own personal brand as an athlete. When you win a national tournament, not an international tournament, that opens the eyes of international promoters, right? So now you look at people like Asa Tenpao, you look at people like Troy Jones Jr., you look at people like Janet Todd, and look at what happened to their careers. Granted, not everyone is Troy Jones Jr., not everyone is Asa Tenpao, and not everyone is JT, but that's because they're the cream of the crop. They are special fighters, and this is what our tournaments do: is we weed out who the best fighters are in the United States, in the world. So now that will also bring up opportunities for you to be sponsored or picked up by even agencies that rep athletes, give you more opportunities overseas and nationally. Can I promise you that? No. No one can promise you that. It's up to you as a fighter to take on the hardest fights you can and make exciting fights, right? Remember, athletes, this is a very big word of advice for you guys. You guys are brands. Each athlete has its own story. Each athlete has a reason why they fight. And you need to make sure that that is expressed through your career. And you guys need to be taking the hardest fights you can and make them exciting. Win or lose, if you have exciting fights and you fighting the best, no one can take that away from you as long as you're displaying a high level of skill. So remember, you guys are brands. And when branding happens, people need to know your why and why you do this. Not just because you fight. You have to fight for something bigger than yourself. Look at all the big names in our sport, like Kevin Ross. Look, his brand. You know, I've been wanting to talk about this for a while, about athlete branding. Kevin Ross has a really great example of a brand, right? He fights because he wants to face his fears. He started fighting because he was addicted to drugs and alcohol, and it gave him a different way of life. How did he become famous? It wasn't because he was undefeated. It's because he had a really great, amazing fights with high caliber athletes. He's fought the best. And this is before the internet. This is before all that stuff. Is because he had a personal brand. He may have not known that he was creating his own brand, but if you look at it on paper and how brands are created, Kevin Ross has a great prime example of what branding as a fighter is. You know what I mean? When you look at Kevin Ross, you associate him with a couple things: America and being one of America's best that will fight anyone, anytime, willing to lose to make an exciting fight. And that's why he gets booked. That's why he got more opportunities. So that's just another, I went off the charts over there and kind of went on a rabbit hole about branding for athletes, but that's just something I wanted to give athletes a kind of like advice. If you guys want fights, yes, winning fights is probably the number one thing you need to do, but you also have to brand yourself and let people know you by why you fight, your origin story, you know?
Well, and for further consultation, please contact Jeff Dohio at Jeff Dohio on Instagram. I think something you said, which for me, who's worked with athletes, not just in Muay Thai, but also MMA, Jiu-Jitsu, boxing, kind of seeing how people promote themselves or how athletes are promoted. I think you say something really important that's also so simple, like take those hard fights, right? Don't worry about protecting your record. Don't worry about being undefeated. Fight the best so you can be better, right? And I would say a lot of those athletes that are representing us, Aaron Ortiz, again, let's bring him up, right? So he went to Abu Dhabi earlier this year, I think very short notice. I think it was for a WMC belt, correct? And the kid went out there. Well, he's a man. All right. Aaron went out there and fought, and he didn't get the win, but he put himself out there and he fought and he did his best. And for me, I saw Aaron, I think at Lion Fight, maybe 4 years ago or something like this. He was wearing headgear. He was like so skinny and like, like long hair, just different, and to see his transformation as an athlete, freaking making history today. Everybody in the US is celebrating what Aaron was able to accomplish, and he, a few months ago, was in the same place and didn't come home a winner. And I think that speaks to what you're saying about put yourself out there, chase those rounds, put those fights, look for them. This is something Mike talks about a lot, that you need to fight the hardest, the best, so that you can improve. And Aaron today accomplishing something, it's more than just a gold medal. It's, all the work and those fights that came before it.
Yeah, definitely. That's the discipline, the sacrifices he makes, his coach's sacrifices, and, big up to his coach and his team. They have a gold medalist, the very first men's elite gold medalist in America. Aaron's going down in history for this, and he will be celebrated for that for the entire duration of Muay Thai in America, in the United States, in regards to IFMA World Championships. So this is a big, big thing. You know what I mean? Like, his stock goes up. Yesterday's price ain't today's price for Aaron. You know what I mean? Like, all you promoters out there, all of the people throwing fights, all of the people wanting to do seminars, you need to look at Aaron and what he's done, because he really brought home a really big title for us in America that's never been done before. So, you know, a lot of love and respect to him and his team. And also, you know, Rami and Aziz out there for helping him get there during those rounds.
Yeah, I think when I think of the first medalist for USA Muay Thai, it's Brian Popejoy, right? Back in 2000.
I believe so.
And he was B class, or what do you call it now, under 23?
I think, yeah, B class back then, though.
So Brian, I mean, I don't think Brian got like a parade when he came out. Things are different back then. But if you look at what someone like Brian Popejoy has been able to accomplish, what he's been able to create, so much came from a passion for the sport. And you know, Jeff, you talk about brand and branding athletes. Man, it's a lot of work. This shit's a lot of work. The whole thing is a lot of work. Trying to get paid is a lot of work. Trying to fight is a lot of work. It's more than just what you're doing in the gym. There's now, I think in our era, especially with social media, there's so much more that comes with it that it makes it harder, right? But I think if you're willing to chase after it and really give it your all and, you know, do your best, as corny as that sounds, I see it paying off, not just for Aaron, but for also other athletes who are getting themselves fights, who are getting themselves opportunities, because they keep putting themselves out there, you know, and that really does make a difference. From the social media manager of the USMF, I see it.
Right. And, you know, like athletes like Tierra, her price isn't the same, but yesterday's price ain't today's price, right? Also, it's because she fights the best that she can. She fights the best that she can. Danny and Dez would send her to Thailand and Chiang Mai to fight when she's young, you know, just to get that experience. And now, you know, Tierra is at a place where she's almost the face of women's Muay Thai on a USMF level, on Olympic level. You know what I mean? She was celebrated by the World Games. You know what I mean? As she had a whole day dedicated to her about her workout routine.
She was interviewed in Abu Dhabi as well. They asked her to interview her.
I'm just saying, you know how many athletes won gold medals? I think we had like fucking 12 or something like that, right? Any of y'all could have applied for that. You know what I mean? To be a part of the World Games. It's just that, you know, Tierra was selected by the World Games to be followed for that day. And that's big, y'all. That is big. That's like the Olympics following you for a day. So again, it goes back to branding, right? And how you search for opportunities to tell your story. But yeah, I digress. You know, that's a whole podcast we can go over on like branding for athletes and coaches and promotions from Jeff and Pari. So we'll do that for another podcast.
Or a $50 seminar that you can book us for.
A $50 seminar, or like a talk, a Jeff talk.
Fireside chat. We sit next to you to a fireplace and drink hot cocoa, and we tell you all the stuff you're doing wrong.
Yeah.
Post once a month, bro. You're effing up. Get it together.
I'm available for consultation. Just let you know.
Anyways, okay, so let's get back to our fighters. Just to kind of wrap things up a bit. So we had a great showing at IFMA. Our athletes did wonderful. Our coaches and staff did amazing. Everybody really worked together. I think as far as what can be expected coming into the World Games, we are rolling out athlete interviews. You guys are going to get to know more about our fighters and get to know who's representing the US. And while we're there, Jeff and Pari and Dustin live from the scenes. This is the Haps. But Jeff, give them a preview into the Haps. What is that week going to look like for everybody? Besides press for me.
I mean, it's going to be a smaller tournament, right? because it's invite only. So it's not like we have 30 people from each country trying to compete in a 16-man bracket. It's pretty much eight person bracket in each of the categories. I'm also thinking some of the countries might not show up depending on like, visas and stuff like that. So it might be even smaller. There's going to be 2 rings, I think, and then eventually into 1 ring. And it's just going to be straight up Muay Thai from July 12th to the 18th.
Live scoring?
Live scoring. I think it's also going to be broadcasted through the World Games app somewhere. We will find that information for y'all, and make sure you tune into our Instagram, the USMF Instagram, as well as IFMA's Instagram, because hopefully we will be giving you live updates, or at least updates by the end of the day.
And our Instagram will go down again, I promise.
Yeah. So it's going to be pretty cool. I'm going to have the honor of working with IFMA with the World Games as the International Federation Media Manager, and Pari is going to be my second shooter. And, I want to give you props for that because you put in a lot of work. And I'm really grateful that Marcy recommended me for the position, and that IFMA has all their faith in me to create something amazing.
It's going to be fun, even with the stress. And I will say, because this is our show, I don't know if people know, sometimes I get a little emotional, or I might have mood swings. It's not something people know about me, but Jeff manages it so well.
That's great.
Yeah, look at that face. That's great. Even though there is some stress, preparing for this from the media side, when you're there, this stuff is fun. It's crazy. You see great fights. You see you see people's lives like change, what happens. You see heartbreak, you see triumph. There's so much that's going on. You see the camaraderie, you see all the countries come together. For me, as someone who worked with the youth athletes, I always thought it was very cute that these 2 young fighters face each other, and then a day later you find them playing together. It's not the same with the adults. They hang out in a different way, but
they drink alcohol. Yeah.
I didn't say that. So I think it's just really a cool thing to witness how Muay Thai brings us all together from every aspect of it, whether you're a corner or you're in the media or you're actually competing. It's a really cool thing to see how much people really are passionate about this sport.
Yeah, I've been with the Federation for 5 years, and this has been the accumulation of everything that I've been striving to do as a creative before anyone hopped on. I wanted to make sure that we made a difference in the sport, change the way the sport is looked at least the Federation is looked at in America. And I've been able to make an impact internationally and globally with the help of my team. And I'm really proud of that. So me having the honor of becoming the International Federation Media Manager is a big thing for me. It's something I've always wanted to do when I first hopped on the scene with the USMF, and now I'm meeting my goals. And I'm really proud of everyone in the USMF for bringing USA Muay Thai to this level. It wasn't like this before. Our reputation wasn't that great, and our reputation is still being improved. You know what I mean? It's being improved by creating more transparency and providing opportunities and being the standard of USA Muay Thai. So just want to say that if this is going to be a great event, besides Pari choking on while I'm talking, this is going to be a great event, and people should really be rooting for our athletes. I want everyone to congratulate our athletes that just came from Abu Dhabi. It's a really great experience for them, and they fought their hearts out.
One more thing I want to say, as far as now you're coughing to get back at me, or as far as the media side of things, no one's doing what we're doing, bruh. No one has a little pat on the back. All right. You're not seeing other countries post their rankings or even get together to make those rankings. You're not seeing other countries do live updates, and I'm very proud of us doing that. I wanted us to be the ESPN of Muay Thai, Jesus. Excuse me. So I am super proud of what we're accomplishing and how we're representing those athletes, because like you said, the branding, what gets opportunities. If we can recognize our fighters 100%, we're doing everything we can to make that happen with the tools that we have. And the goal is to keep providing those opportunities, keep people seeing. And I think maybe I talked about this before, but the first time I ever heard of IFMA, I think it was 2017. It was the when they went to Belarus. I don't even know if they had I don't even know if they had it on YouTube. I remember I Googled this, and the reason why I even knew what IFMA was because Aaron Jimenez was fighting, and I had met Aaron a few months before, and I thought she was super cool. I was very impressed by her because she's like a freaking scientist and a fighter.
She's Dr. Doom.
Yeah. And I wanted to see her fight. And Kate Allen was there. There's names that I recognized. And I remember posting about it in my team's group message board, like, hey guys, IFMA's this week. We got to tune in and support. And they're like, where can we watch this? I was like, I don't know. And I didn't know what was happening. I had to stay glued to Facebook to find results. And I didn't see anything. I think you heard one or two things, and then people talked about it after, and that's it. And I didn't know what IFMA looked like until I was actually there in 2018, besides the pictures I saw, Jeff, from when you went with the team. But I didn't know what to expect. And when I was there in Thailand, I was like, wow, this is hot. I don't get to sleep. And like, there's so much going on. It was so much for me to just dive into. And I think people are freaking lucky, man. Like, they get to see the win as soon as it happens. They get to watch the fight. They get to cheer on in lifetime, you know, and you can see the behind the scenes. You can see that process of it. But for me, just 5 years ago, I was like, can someone please post a result? Oh, they don't have Wi-Fi. I'm not going to know it for a while, you know? So you get to be there with our athletes in a way that you couldn't before. And I think we try very hard to give that real-time access. We want you to see what the level of competition is. We want you to see what they're experiencing. You know, it's a big part of it.
And it's a lot of work.
Yes, it's killing me slowly.
It's a lot of work. You know, when I did it just because I that wasn't my goal, right? I had the pictures, I put them up, I had the Instagram, I started the Instagram, I had the pictures, like, fuck it, here, this guy won today, cool. You know what I mean? I didn't even know who he fought or she fought. I'm like, oh, so-and-so won today, cool. And then, you know, it evolved. It just started evolving into like, oh, you know what? We structure this. Oh, you know what? We can do it better. Oh, you know what? Let's add this. Let's make it even better with graphics. You know what I mean? And the only thing we need now is just going live. You know what I'm saying? Just going live at the same time. But because technology is going to probably be like, there's going to probably be like an umbrella to kill all the live streams. You know what I mean? For devices.
Oh, you think so?
I mean,
they're probably going to be with Wi-Fi. It's probably going to be a little restrictive.
You know what I'm really impressed about with the World Games that happened in Abu Dhabi was the production value, bro.
Des told me there was freaking, what is it? Cameramen on hoverboards. I'm like, can we get some of those for Alabama?
Dude, the fucking opening ceremony had horses and shit.
That's amazing.
Like, I was like, damn. And then, like, you know, I saw the people from IFMA like walking and introducing the rings and stuff like that. Really great, high quality stuff. But I mean, it's Abu Dhabi, that they have the money for that, which is really cool. They had probably a media day for each one of the teams. So that shit was probably had to be over $1 million just to put that stuff together.
So if you'd like to sponsor the USMF, please send an email to fundraising@usamuaythai.sport.
That's true. You can do that as well.
If you'd like to volunteer for the USMF, please go to volunteer.usamuaythai.sport.
If you want to work directly with Pari Cherry, hit up social media at usamuaythai.sport.
I have an email like that. Okay, send an email to the social media at USA Muaythai Sport.
You get to work directly with Pari Cherry.
And the mood swings. I didn't know I really had that many.
Can I say that you're a writer for one?
You can say that.
She's a writer for one. So you could work directly with a writer for one championship.
But not for one championship. I can't promise anything. I really like that job. No one screw that up for me, please.
The highly coveted writing position. Shout out to John Walcott.
The best. One of the nicest guys I've ever worked with.
OG
never
journalist.
Gets mad at me. Never gets frustrated with me. But I never have mood swings with him.
Lucky guy. Envy you, John. Envy you, John.
So let's share some information for our listeners. Stay tuned. We're going to have some media days coming up for our athletes. People are coming back from Abu Dhabi, so we're going to be releasing those dates soon. We're going to go on IG Live with some of our peeps and get you to know more. We also have some really cool content coming together. And yeah, stay tuned for everything.
Yeah, we're going to have some video highlights from the qualifiers that, where we interview our medalists, and that Rosie has been painstakingly putting together. Look amazing. And we're updating our website as well to have lists of medalists, which is going to be really cool. It's been an idea that I've had for such a long time, and finally it's coming to fruition. And then, we're going to, like you said, those IG lives. Can you give us more information about the IG lives right now?
So we have one scheduled for June 11th, and we have some of the athletes hopping in there, and there might be a second day that we have more, but all of that information comes out on our Instagram because we update everything on Instagram. You're always going to know what's going on because it comes on Instagram.
Can you talk about the other USMF handles that we have that you created?
Yes. So we have USA Muay Thai athletes, which is to focus on our competing athletes and share information about them. We have USA Muay Thai GEC, which is about our Gender Equality Commission. Marcy and Ann head that up and are doing what they can to promote our sport, promote equality, give a platform to athletes that maybe the media isn't always recognizing, right? And providing a platform for these individuals, and they're doing a great job. We also have Sport is Your Gang _USA, which is for our Sport is Your Gang program, which is going to be restarting soon. And we're working on promoting our referees, our judges, because they are the ones that really help us in the sport. Like we had a ref and judge officials clinic that was at the qualifiers, and that was super important because we want everybody to know the rules. We want everybody to know how they can get ahead in the sport or how they can perform well. So we're trying every aspect to just recognize all the people that make up who we are. Like, yes, we're very happy and pleased to have medalists, but there's a whole lot that goes into being a part of the Muay Thai community, and we want everybody to feel like they're part of the community.
So if you guys want to hear more about athlete branding and marketing, comment on this video below. And if we could get a ton of comments saying we want to learn more about athlete branding, we'll create a podcast about athlete branding. Right, Pari Cherry?
Should we do a separate podcast called the Jay Dizzle Show and the Pari Cherry Show? And then
there's too many fucking shows.
Whatever.
But I'm saying, if you guys really want to know about athlete branding and how to market yourself better and brand yourself, we'll do one. We may even do an IG live. Who knows? We could probably do that. We could do a lot of things.
5 more weeks to the World Games till we're on planes to Alabama, to Birmingham in July. I don't know if anyone's ever seen My Cousin Vinny, but that's what I think of when I think of Alabama. Grits and stuff like that.
And the 2 Utes.
Yes. Yes. I love that.
2 Utes.
Two Utes. So yeah, hopefully we'll have another show for you guys by then. And if not, we'll be recapping the World Games.
And then I can see Corley on your left shoulder right there.
Which way's left? Yes. Really, put him in. Bye, everybody. Thank you.
Bye, guys. Thank you.